Welcome to the Kidding After Show. We're talking episode 3, Every Pain Needs a Name, where Seb apparently thinks that Jeff died in a car crash that he wasn't in, and also should be dating fans that may or may not be sending pictures of their clitoris. So clearly there's a lot to talk about again, so stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Takira, you came through on this one.
Yeah.
You guys, if you watch the episode, you know what a man, because the question of what is the right type of man is, I think, a big point of this episode.
Jeff Pickles wants to prove that he's a man, dang it. I think he did at the end. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of... This episode was really Jeff Pickles packed. Some Will and Seb also, and we got some Deirdre in it as well. There's a lot to talk about, but before we get into it, I'm Steph Sabraw, and to my left is the beautiful Takira Shabrae.
What up, peeps?
We are missing Rocky and Mina, but they will be back next week, so don't you guys worry.
Yeah.
For this episode, we'll be first tackling Mr. Pickles and kind of the Puppet Time show with Seb, the Pickle family, mainly Will and kind of Jeff, now that he's dating, not dating, we're not sure, and then Deirdre and the fam. And then we will have the special segment again with the Jim Carrey gem. This time we'll focus on Bruce Almighty, another classic, of course, and we'll have some news and gossip, and then wrap it up with some predictions.
Yeah.
So just what's your overall thoughts about episode 3?
The last scene, I can't even talk. The last scene. I mean, Mr. Pickles gets his groove back. And yeah, I know that's not the only thing that was in this episode, but I'm like, well, all right, Mr. Pickles. He put his pickle, he found somewhere to put it. That's just like,
I was
all I can envision. Thank you, Steve. In the studio, is this mic on?
Oh my gosh.
I thought, other than that very surprising scene, I thought that it was really a moment when Mr. Pickles showed his frustration just a little bit more, and he's really like acting on it. I feel like every single episode he takes his frustrations, what he's really feeling, and he's like, dang it, someone's gonna listen to me eventually. So I liked it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. That last scene, I was like, I gotta rewind this because I thought it was like a dream sequence I missed. Like, I was unsure.
Me too. Yeah.
But I do have to say, just on a writing and production standpoint, this episode I think was the strongest. Just starting with that intro scene and then wrapping it and tying it all into like a pretty little bow where she ends up being one of the letter writers. Loved it. I really loved it. And I think that we do see more of that darkness in the humor, which I love, but it's also really creepy. Like, I'm like, is Jeff creeping me out, or do I feel for him? I'm not sure yet. But I guess that gets into our first topic, because I think these men, Jeff and Seb, are by far so complicated on them on their own, and together even more complicated, and have this huge power dynamic of what it is to what a man. We don't know. So we start out the episode where Mr. Pickles rips out the puppet's heart and is trying to do another example to the kids of what dealing with pain and hurt. And Seb obviously disagrees with this and brings him into the office and basically shows him this drawer of letters he's been keeping from women, including, like I said in the intro, someone sending a picture of her clitoris to him. And saying he should go out.
And he, I mean, he clearly, Mr. Pickles at least has fun, because he could tell that it was upside down. I didn't see that coming. Like, Seb just saying, hey, well, maybe I saw it coming, I've said it before, he's the epitome of the stereotype of a man, like not showing feelings and, sex and just one night stands to make you feel good.
Yes.
So his father is the epitome of just the everyday man, I feel like, and Mr. Pickles is just trying so hard to just be a good guy. But that was surprising to me.
Yeah, they're like polar opposites of what men like are depicted in society.
The stereotype. Yeah.
So what really gets interesting, I feel like, just on a character development point, was when Jeff says, "It's uncomfortable because I don't want people to think I'm stepping out on my wife, even though they're not together right now." And Seb says that no one will take a second thought to because no one sees Mr. Pickles as a sexual being. And this is where Jeff takes offense and he declares, "I am a man, just a different kind."
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
To be honest, I didn't really think the show was going to take it there. But when he said, "I am a man," for a second, like just a millisecond, I really did think that he was going to go find another woman to have sex with just because I was like, he's a man at the end of the day. But it went away like a millisecond. I'm like, no, Mr. Pickles wouldn't do that. It's Mr. Pickles. But I feel like how heartbreaking is it to almost be screaming silently, if that makes sense, at the top of your lungs, "This is who I am and who I'm trying to be," and the world just won't let him be. And it honestly reminds me of like Jim Carrey in like real life, because he's said that we create ourselves and we do all of these things to make ourselves popular and to be liked and all of this. And then the moment that you try to step away from that facade, the whole world's like, "No, that's not who you are. Like, come back to the one that we really know." And I feel like this moment in so many ways, just like all of his other projects, just speak what he's going through or may have recently gone through. So I loved this scene. I think it was the foreshadow of Mr. Pickles again taking another step down later in the episode.
Yeah, those are really interesting points you thought of, because I agree. Like, and even with women, the standards we place on men were like, we want you to be like more sensitive because we're sick of like these hyper masculine men that are so destructive and toxic. But then you see those same women that are like, "You're not like man enough." So It's interesting because I do think there's more to it with Mr. Pickles. It's not the sensitivity I do love. It's the like reprimanding me if I say a cuss word. Like, we're grown here, Mr. Pickles. I can say this if I feel like it. Or like the cancer patient.
Yeah. Please don't use a bad word when you can use a good one.
I do like that line, but not always. Maybe for your son. Yeah, so it was interesting. And then he ends up going on a date with the woman that was in the intro scene. Yes. And she's she's played by Ricky Lindholm, and she did a fantastic job. You see her in the beginning, and she's like having sex with a drug dealer to get drugs, as she proclaims to him, and meanwhile having the Puppet Time show playing in the background and kind of being like her like church almost. Yeah. And then he goes on a date with her, and it's a really great time. And I actually think that they have great chemistry, but it gets really deep when she basically says, "You saved me." And he says, "I used to like hearing that, but not anymore." And do you agree that he should kind of feel like that?
100%. I instantly like stood up, gave kudos, snapped fingers, all of that, that he walked away, because it's exhausting to be the one that is constantly positive, is constantly that friend. I think a lot of people have felt that, like, you're always the friend that someone wants to call to vent to, or you're the friend that always has something motivational to say. But at the end of the day, that person needs something motivational too. And so I'm with you. I thought they had really good chemistry. And then the moment that he realized, like, she sees me for, he's pretty much in front of her begging for permission to be who he really wants to be, or someone else. He even says, like, I wrote it in my notes as far as verbatim, but he was just like, I enjoy pretending to be someone else too. I turn on violent movies and pretend that I'm in them. Like, he's pretty much begging to be with somebody that's going to allow him to be something else other than Mr. Pickles. And for a second, we thought she was going to be that person, and he was so relieved. And then the moment that she wasn't, heck yeah, I agreed with him. I'm like, she just sees you for the TV show. Like, you need to find someone who sees you for something else. So.
And on the flip side of that as well is that you can't you can't be the motivator or like the example when you yourself is crumbling.
Yeah.
And I feel like that leads perfectly into Jeff and Will, because I think Will is handling this better in a lot of ways than Jeff. So before we get into that, though, you do have a special announcement for us.
Of course. For everyone that is such fanatics about this TV show, we have other shows as well. So look, our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows like this one, but from drama, reality TV, sci-fi, all of that and more. So there's no network that works harder to serve television fans. But look, we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more, because there's a few of our YouTube channels. But by subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that is tailor-made for just you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about those pesky notifications, don't be. They are completely optional, and you can hit the subscribe button and switch up your settings. So hit that subscribe button right now. We'll give you a second. All right, there you go. For this channel, and check out AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Other ones. So let us know that you did in the comments, and we will thank you on air. But for now, just thank you for being the absolute best fans and helping us be the ESPN of TV talk. We appreciate you.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well said. So Jeff and the Pickles, we basically only have Jeff and Will in terms of the Pickle family right now in this episode, and Will is still hanging out with the same group of friends, but Mr. Pickles, Jeff is trying to, I feel like he saw that he has some competition now, so he gets him the magic kit, and he kind of sits down and says, "You're too young to have friends that are lost." And it's interesting because it's like, do you not think your son is feeling lost right now? Like, he just lost his twin, and I am a twin, so I know you're not well. And to be that young dealing with that, and also be, in a lot of ways, I think, like I said, dealing with it better than Jeff. I feel like it was a nice notion, but he's still not handling it well in the communication.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing that I absolutely loved about this episode is I love that Will finally just let his dad be a dad for just a second. Like, I know that Will is going through his own, he has his own way of dealing with his loss of his brother, and that can sometimes turn into what looks like disrespect, or like lashing out and acting out, which kids a lot of the times do just because they need that attention. But I love that he at least accepted the gift, and they had this little banter of laughter. And I'm like, oh, yes, I want them to have a great relationship. And I think it's coming, but Jeff is doing better. I mean, he laughed at his brother he laughed at his son Phil for putting peanut butter in Fancy Nancy's shoes or whatever. And normally I feel like Jeff would be like, no, that's not a nice thing to do. But I liked this scene.
Yeah, I agree. Their scene was cute, really cute, and I thought it was really well done, editing wise, with Will, with the callback with the magic kit, because I thought when he threw it away, it was because he thought his mom was going to come and he wanted to act all tough. Because I thought he genuinely liked it. Like, it made him feel closer to his twin. And then when he picked it back up from the trash can, I really liked that. Yeah. Even though he was about to destroy every lamppost on the street.
Right. I don't think he realized what was going on, though, because he was way too fascinated at the end with Cassidy when she was doing her little wand thing.
First kiss, though.
Right?
How much older is she than him?
Oof.
I feel like there's some cradle snatching going
3?
on. Like, she is like a good foot taller.
Yeah, maybe 3. I mean, he could be one of those,
Yeah, slow to grow. She seems nice, but I don't think, it's interesting because even though they shouldn't be smoking weed in high school and they are young and impressionable, they do seem like all right people. Like, they seem like good people. Kids, they're just like exactly how my brother was, like, just messing with everyone because they could.
Let boys be boys. No, that was horrible. But I mean, I do too. They're kids. I mean, I do love that in ways, I don't know if anyone else noticed, but Jim Carrey and Jeff Pickles, Piccarello, and Jeff and Will are having their own versions of see me moment. Like, they're both on like mini dates, and they're trying to see if the girl that they're on the date with is going to see them for who they really are. So I think that that's going to be, they're so much alike, and I think Will and Jeff are really going to realize that. But I love that they're kind of in this parallel world, just at different times of trying to define themselves for who that inner core really is. So it was really cute.
And when Will, I thought it was really, Will seems like he can express his emotions really well, actually. And when he was talking about Peter, the new boyfriend, he's like, I feel like he really sees me and not just as my twin.
He's so intelligent. Will is so intelligent.
That felt special, and I was like, I wouldn't have been able to verbalize that like that. But so it was a good moment, and I really felt for him, because even though he can be such a little jerk, he is really sweet, and he did redefine what we thought, that he was the good one out of the twins. Like, he's kind of role switching.
Yeah.
A funny little note is that when Will's friends are asking him if his dad used to be a government assassin, that was also based on a persistent rumor about Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
So that's funny. And then just to wrap up this portion, we do have to talk about one thing we were like, we need to discuss. Mr. Pickles drops by the hospital, and just to be creepy again, to find his wife, and ends up running into a cancer patient named Vivian, who's played by Ginger Gonzaga, which she was just amazing.
Phenomenal.
So absolute props. And he puts a smile on her face, and he does, like, that's when I love him the most, is when he's like really actually cheering people up and making them feel normal again. And then when he comes back with or he comes back home from the date, he sees the neighbor, who I guess is always Edward Scissorhands with the 40s on her hands.
College, maybe?
I don't know.
It reminds me of the epitome of college years for some. Not, for some.
Drives you nuts. He comes home, sees her drunk again, that her roommates are having sex, so he takes her into his place, where she makes a pass on him again. So something about, like, I feel like his sorrow and aloneness, women are just jumping on.
He's the nice guy. He's like, he's the guy that your mom tells you have to be with. But then, sometimes the bad boy comes around and is like, okay, I kind of want the bad boy for a little while, but then eventually when I grow up and I want to mature and I want to adult, then, Mr. Pickles is my guy. So who's not attracted to that? I love Mr. Pickles.
When he came out with the space otter, I was like, I would have been down too.
Yeah, I know, right? Dang it, that space otter suit is just really doing something for me right now.
It's just so sick. No, I'm just kidding. But she was like, when she tried to make a pass, he declined her, as he should have, because she was really drunk, clearly. And she was, she said, aren't you sick of always doing the right thing? And that, I think, is what we thought Seb would do inside of his head, like trigger something, but that's triggered it. And he ends up going back to Vivian and doing the thing. How did you feel?
I'm just trying to figure out, how the heck did he get in contact with her? At what point were numbers crossed? I mean, you know what? Kudos. And Dad is over here texting like, did you get that kiss? Daddy, I got him way more than a kiss. But, something that jumped out at me at this episode is how sad is it in today's society that when we come across someone who is just legitimately a nice person, respects people for crying out loud, that they're the weird ones, like they're the not the norm. Like, she's like, are you ever tired of doing the right thing? Had he taken advantage of her or whatever, that sadly would have been the norm, and she probably would have been expecting that. Like, to me in this episode, I'm just thinking, how effed up is this world that we see a nice, respectful person and we can't appreciate that?
No, I'm actually really glad you brought that up because clearly I'm wearing black for a reason in solidarity with Dr. Ford and survivors of sexual assault. But it's true. Like, we as women need to be more accountable of what are we asking for? Are we asking for full respect and consent, which is absolutely what we should be asking for? Then we go with that. And when someone's nice, we should be respecting that and uplifting that.
Yes. 100%.
And loving that.
100%. Because if at the end of the day they are, what are we really doing? Are we driving the nice people in this world to think that they're losers in the at the end of the day, or that it baffles me, like the nice people out there, if they never get a win like Mr. Pickles, I mean, what as a human, what would you do? Like switch up the game? Like it's really. It's just effed up.
It's interesting. It's really interesting, and I love that about the show. The most thought-provoking thing is that why do I feel uncomfortable with Mr. Pickles even, right? Because he's so nice, he's so loving, he's smart, he's respectful, but for some reason I even get a little bit rubbed the wrong way.
Yeah, it's society. It's just we got to break.
Yeah,
it's strange. But
we'll see his growth. Yeah, definitely. I
so.
actually am very excited to see his growth, like as an adult man.
Yes.
Coming out of his shell a little bit.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next topic, if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and leave us a comment below so we can keep the combo going beyond just this show airing. And if you're listening on iTunes, make sure to rate us 5 stars and also leave a comment so we can shout you guys out and talk to you guys after this as well. So Deirdre and the family, cheating husband Scott gets stood up by the boyfriend who's going on a hotel getaway.
He's going, quote, air quotes right here, to work, end quotes. Yeah.
Hate infidelity. But he doesn't know that Deirdre let Rex know, the lover that she knows. And Maddy is the one suffering the hardest through this. She's regressing so much that a doctor was saying her throwing up her hands and screaming is what infants do when they're afraid of falling. So
isn't that crazy?
Yes.
That's wild to me. I was thinking that she was just acting up. And then when the doctor came in, I'm like, crap, is this like foreshadowing to something serious? Like, does she have to rest? Like, all these things are going through my mind.
I thought that could be it too. When he said it's like an neuro impulse thing, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Maddy is such a good little actress. Like, I never know what she's thinking. Like,
her eyes are so, I mean, kudos to like the casting and the talent, like you said. Her eyes, like, she just cracks me up how she'll like stare off for a second and then she's like, oh, okay, I'm back. Like, it's like a That's So Raven moment when you like pair off for a second. Like, yes. Maddy, hello. What you think, girlfriend? I know she's
such
smart.
Such a good call.
She's amazing.
And so basically Deirdre kind of gives up and tells her that they're not getting a divorce, which is fine if that's her choice, but then says don't tell her dad about anything she saw ever. I don't think this is smart. No. What's your opinion?
I don't think so whatsoever, because first of all, can I just really bring up the point that I hated, absolutely despised that people were telling her to shut up. Like her teacher said shut up, her own mom told her to shut up. So in my mind, I'm like, see, this is why kids feel like they can't express themselves. Like anytime someone shuts someone up from communicating what they're feeling inside, that's the epitome of like, I commented on YouTube, one of our listeners, so thank you for the comment, but not communicating and getting your feelings out, that's the epitome of like an inner wick of an explosive bomb. Like it's just like waiting to be lit, and with every shut up or every dismissal, it's like in an instant, boom. And so I could not stand that. So I feel like it was really intentional to the writers to get under my skin. So kudos, you guys did it. Maybe I wasn't the only one. But yeah, I don't think her telling her daughter to just forget this is a good idea whatsoever. I mean, that's going to haunt her later on in life when she really knows what's going on.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I think it was very intentional that the teacher and the mom were using those words, which are they don't seem like fighting words, but they're fighting words.
They're fighting words.
They're just mean. I completely agree. And I think that it is hard when you do have a child who is so young. What do you tell them and what do you not tell them? But I do think honesty is always the best policy, as cliche as that is. It always is. There's a way you can say it that's not as like, you like, how she was like, does your dad know that he was hand effing someone else? Like, it doesn't have to be like that. You can just say he was doing something he shouldn't have done in our marriage when we made a promise. Like, something like that. I don't know what it could be.
I mean, my mom, I knew what a vagina was. I knew what a penis, like the literal term. And even like my best friend has these conversations. Like, her mom talked to her as if it's like medical terms. Like, you don't call it a hoo-ha, you don't call it a twat, you don't call it is a vagina, it is a penis. So like,
and you can cheat that way.
Yeah, like just you can cheat that way. Yeah, it's, and even something as simple as private parts. These are areas like my mom taught me your triangle. There's areas that you just that a particular person's not allowed to touch unless you give them permission when you're old enough. Like, there's ways that you can talk about it. And I think that's even more relevant to Mr. Pickles' show. Like, let him use his platform, for crying out loud. He's been talking to kids his whole life. Like, let him do it just in a certain way. Like you said it best. Like, there's just a way that you can tailor it.
You're a little bit. I completely agree. On the other side of Deirdre, she finds out she has a conversation with Seb, and he lets her know his long-term plans with Mr. Pickles. He sees the way that Jeff is falling apart, wants to make sure the brand and longevity moves beyond Mr. Pickles. And I don't know if he thinks he's like quitting or dying. It's not really clear what Seb sees coming, but it's really upsetting for me, at least, to see a father figure be so cutthroat and so business driven when his son is going through. There is nothing worse than a child dying.
Yeah.
So
nothing that I can think of.
I didn't think Seb would take it to that level.
I don't either. I mean, he's focused way too much on the money. I said it last week. We gotta have heart. We gotta have authenticity behind things, and the money will come. I mean, and it's so strange because this is not a very uncommon thing when TV shows kind of run out and there's this talk of animated replacement. It's not, uncommon, but I feel like it's not just, he's getting older or like I don't know, I just don't like it.
I agree. Well, do you have anything else to say about this episode?
No, I think that it's funny staying on like what they plan on doing with Mr. Pickles, like Mr. Rogers, like it went off into a little spin-off of like an animated of Daniel Striped Tiger. I just like the parallels between Mr. Rogers and the show. I think it's just really funny, but
good point.
No, that's it. No, I think we covered it.
Okay, well, let's get into our special segment, Jim Carrey Gems.
Yeah.
Today we will be talking about Bruce Almighty, obviously a beloved film. Did you like this film growing up?
Oh yeah, I loved all talent in the show, but I think my favorite part of this scene, for those that are tuning with us on YouTube and can actually see the clip, is when Jim Carrey was in the White Room with Morgan Freeman, and he opens his file.
Like God's mind.
Yeah, of God's mind or whatever. But I loved when Morgan Freeman said, "You've always been a funny guy, just like your father." Like, I love those little things because, I mean, those that don't know, Jim Carrey's father was a really funny guy. He got his kind of comedic, I guess, a gene from his father.
Dang.
Yeah, he was really a really funny guy, and he was a really good musician. He played the sax, but his dad never really took that step of coming to the United States and really putting forth his effort. But I love that little clip of "You've always been a funny guy," and he's like, "How do you know about my father?" It's so touching because, I mean, he lost his dad a couple weeks after I think The Mask released, but that's my favorite part of this clip.
Yeah, I do love this movie in general, but this clip, I love when movies and shows can conceptualize like very complex things and put it into an artistic way, like God's brain essentially, or his filing cabinets. And this movie came out in 2003. It was directed by Tom Shadyac, I believe, and this is actually his third installment, like movie collaboration with Jim Carrey. They previously worked on Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and Liar Liar. So I thought that was cool. I love when people kind of get a niche director who they like to work with. And I'm sure with such a talent like Jim Carrey, not like certain people probably work best with him.
Yeah.
The controversy with this film that I didn't know until recently actually was that this film was banned in Egypt due to the portrayal of God as visually ordinary man. And bans in both Malaysia and Egypt were eventually lifted after the censorship boards decided that they like gave it a higher rating or something like that. But it's interesting, like, we forget Hollywood film, American film is oftentimes what every other country is watching.
Yeah, that's a good reminder.
So
yeah, forget about that.
Yeah, but love this movie. I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Ugh.
Such a good cast: Jennifer Aniston, Morgan Freeman, obviously.
Yeah.
So
I'm loving I mean, my husband is and when I say die hard Jim Carrey fan, I mean like die hard Jim Carrey fan. So we occasionally just pop in a Jim Carrey movie anyway. But since I'm on this show, it's like we're kind of taking a whole ride through like out his career, and I love it.
I love that.
I love this one, but
okay, well, we're running out of time, but let's get really quick news and gossip.
Yeah.
AfterBuzz TV News.
I have a couple of things. We know that Jill is played by Judy Greer on The Kidding, and she kind of admitted to Newsweek that she was nervous to work with Jim Carrey. She said, quote, "Jim Carrey, I was super nervous to work with him and meet him." Greer said, "But I really feel his character, Jeff Pickles, is just the idea of people being nice to other people and treating each other with respect." End quote, is what she loved. So she was kind of intimidated. It's so funny to see another well-known actress, Judy Greer, to be nervous to, act with someone else. So I thought that was really interesting.
That is cool.
Yeah, and they have such a close, that's her ex, Jill and Jeff, their ex spouses for crying out loud. So pretty instance. Another is just this whole controversy of Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street possibly, I don't know, being gay. So one of the writers from Sesame Street kind of indirectly gave hint that Bert and Ernie were gay. And I guess he got a little bit of backlash from social media. Of course, he'll do it.
Of course.
And
it was trending on Twitter for like a few days.
I was about to say, not even one day. I mean, it was like a whole weekend. But then he later retracted and kind of said, well, I think people kind of took the took it the wrong way, took what I said the wrong way. So I thought that was really interesting. That was in last week. And then just the final one is Google. It's so cool when you pop on google.com sometimes and they kind of give reference. They gave Mr. Rogers his 51st kind of honorary moment on Google. So you could go to Google and look it out throughout the days, but they had a little video clip of just kind of honoring him. I thought it was really beautiful. And so,
it's perfect timing.
It is, right?
I don't know if it
it's intentional.
Yeah, I feel like the writing is so smart and the creator is very intentional. So it seems like, obviously production, we never know when things are getting put in and put out, but it seems like it could, or at least it's working out well.
It is, yeah. It makes you want to go watch Mr. Rogers. There's 31 seasons, for crying out loud. So, if you're bored, go on YouTube. It's just so much fun rewatching them because, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. Okay, let's do some predictions before we wrap it up.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Did you see the preview for next episode, though?
I did.
Okay, say your prediction with that knowledge, I guess.
Oh, say it with it? Okay.
Yeah, because if you guys haven't, you should watch I don't know how you can't. I'm so curious after every episode.
Yeah, a brief prediction. You can check out the sneak peek, but my prediction is the daughter having some type of medical condition that will bring the family together. And I think Maddy, yes, Maddy having some sort of medical condition. I really think that Will have his moment to, like I said, connect with his father, see his father in a light where he's like, oh man, maybe he is more so like us. He has flaws too, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I think Jeff will kind of blow up a little bit, and everyone else will love him for it. It'll kind of like blend together, meet in the middle. But that's kind of where I'm standing.
Yeah, those are really good predictions. It's hard because you guys should see the preview for next week. It kind of was going along with my normal predictions because I knew Jill wasn't in this episode, so I thought she's going to be back. Yes. And your man's just had sex with someone else, and women find out everything. We find out everything. So clearly she's going to find out, and so I'm curious how that plays out. I'm curious how it plays out with the woman involved too. And I think that you're right. There will be something with Will. I think he could be the piece that really pulls the new Jeff, the Jeff butterfly about to form. And I am worried for Deirdre going into next episode because I feel like she's holding the weight of her daughter's realizations and this lie of her spouse that says he loves her.
And also the secret that Seb gave her about Jeff.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Great point.
Good deal.
So next week it will be Bye Mom. Love that title. Very dramatic. Oof. Never say that to your actual mom, unless it's nice. But yeah, Bye Mom episode 4. I really can't wait to talk about it. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next week, where can we find you?
Yes, you can find me Takira Shabrae on Instagram and Twitter at Takira_Shabrae. And in the comments, I love to respond and read everyone's insights.
Yeah, Takira does. I do too. I'm Steph Sabraw. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw. And thank you guys again. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.